Hey, good evening, Matipa. Thanks a lot for joining. It's nice
It,
having you here. Can you start with a short introduction for me?
yes, pleasure to be here as well. Thank you for interviewing and taking the time to do so too. Yeah, a short introduction about myself. I'm currently a software developer at FNB. FNB is one of the um, biggest banks in South Africa and Africa as a whole. And yeah, basically the main purposes of the bank is just to do normal banking transactions and normal banking activities, facilitate customers, and actually cater for their needs. The team that I'm actually currently working in is the backend team for the FNB banking app, which is a very popular app in South Africa. And yeah, a lot of things that we actually deal with there, a lot of technologies that we actually deal with. Primarily, it's Java. So I've actually gone about and you know gone about become Oracle certified Java professional. Also moved into the AWS space just to kind of venture into the cloud and try kind of restructure my career into that direction a little bit as well. So yeah, pretty much learned a lot thus far, and I'm looking forward to kind of just progressing in my career as time goes. Yeah,
That's great. You said you're working in banking in some bank, FNB bank.
yes, banking industry.
Yeah. So how is it to work in the banking industry? Like, what kind of work do you do there?
Mm. So primarily the type of work we do there at the bank or my particular team actually does is that we kind of maintain, the app that customers use. We build new functionality to keep the app relevant and up to date as well. And we also then also support live queries. So sometimes you'll have cases where customers are actually have certain issues that they have in live in production, and
Mhm.
we kind of have to go and investigate what the issues may be and look through the code base. Sometimes it may be environmental issues, such as operations teams have to be get involved as well, and we raise it with them accordingly. If, for example, the app is responding slowly, etc. So I think there's a broad range of activities that we actually do, but on my side, it's more of the software development functions that I actually have to perform within the team. And yeah, we basically handle the development and the actual maintenance of the code base on the application. Yes.
Okay, interesting. So it must be a huge code base that you're maintaining and enhancing and developing more on that. So,
Yes, yes,
and like,
yes.
how does that, how much time did you take to understand that code base? Like, usually people in college have seen maybe Hello World and maybe a little more complex version of Hello World. How did it feel to go into the industry and pick up such a huge code base?
Yeah, so it is really it does take some time. I'm not going to lie that it takes quite a bit of time to kind of get used to such a big code base. I'd be to estimate. I'd say there must be more than 200,000 lines plus. I'm just roughly estimating,
Okay.
probably a lot more than that anyway. So it's just there's many different functionalities there. There's many different technologies that actually allow the app to run. So for me to actually just kind of estimate, I'd probably say it took me about 8 months to really get a really solid grip of the code base and understanding the code base. Like you said, when I started, I came in from as being a grad and came into that code base straight, and it was quite difficult for me to grasp because I mean I was used to those hello worlds. You're dealing with a main class, and all
Mhm.
of a sudden you start to see um, You start to look for the basics, and they're just not there. You're seeing some really complex structures and patterns and different types of coding styles as well, because different people contribute. So yeah, for me, I think it took about 8 months to really get a grip initially of a lot of the core concepts that run the app, and from there I was pretty much comfortable. Yeah.
Wow. And so
Mm.
how did you learn? So did somebody teach you, or it was just studying yourself, or you took some tutorials? How did you go about that?
Um, yeah. So basically, like we came in as grads, so straight from varsity university straight into that. So it was my first role as a software developer in the bank. Fortunately, I got the opportunity to be in the bank, and fortunately, it was a graduate program as well. So initially, when we started, we came in as software development graduates, and we were trained and we were taught. We had a great mentor as well that came in and showed us a lot of things, and how the app works and how the functionality works and how to get around all of it as well. So yeah, there was an element of my personal growth and development, and going home and really going to study and learn so many things that I actually didn't have context of. Like for example, like Java, for example. I had to start there, and obviously varsity does prepare you to a certain extent, but when you have to actually go in and really go in depth with a lot of the stuff, and working with these professionals, you quickly realize that varsity, you have to extend your knowledge on a lot of the things that you learned at varsity, and if you don't, you just won't keep up with the fast-paced environment that IT presents. So yeah, there was a mixture of self-learning and mentorship that actually helped with our
Okay.
part. Yeah.
Okay. So anything else that you needed to learn apart from technical skills? I'm sure you had to learn other skills as well.
Yes. So when you're working in a bank as well, and it's you have to kind of then talk to people and know how to manage politics in the office as well. Learn about the different structures. If you have your horizontal and vertical structures, understanding that who to escalate things to. There's those types of social personal skills that you actually have to get a grasp of. Because if you don't know, okay, who to talk to with regards to certain issues, then you're not really going to get too far. So I really quickly learned that you can't just be a developer and stick in your zone or your bubble. You have to be out of your bubble and constantly talking to people and constantly engaging with people, learning what system analysts do, learning what business analysts do. And then when you have an issue relating that, who do you raise it with? System analyst or your business analyst, or do you raise it with your team leader? And he then raises it and escalates it further. So I think a lot of the skills that I also learned is just kind of the social element, and actually just mitigating and understanding a lot of issues and conflict resolution. Those are the types of issues like I learned as well. Yeah, types of lessons I learned. Yeah.
Oh, so how did you learn that? Trial and error, or again, did someone teach you or mentor you?
Yeah. So it was mentoring, a lot of mentoring, and also on top of that, it's kind of trial and error sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes you won't have your mentor be there, and you won't have your mentor always be present, and your team lead won't always be present in the particular situation. So sometimes you'll be stuck in the middle of a conflict, and you've kind of got to get up and try to resolve it as best as you possibly can. So I think a lot of trial and error there as well, understanding how to handle. If people come at you aggressively, you've got to
Mhm.
keep your cool and take it easy, and don't retaliate. Always be preserved, be professional, regardless of whether you don't like things or not. Those are the emotional intelligence is something that is both trial and error once again, and mentorship that kind of helped me learn how to maintain that emotional intelligence. Yeah.
Oh. I saw you have done a Java certification in Java 11.
Yes.
Mm. Like very few people I've seen today going for Java certifications. Most of them are like crazy after AWS certification or some cloud certifications. How did you choose Java?
Yeah, so I think I've always been a fan of Java. I think it's a very powerful language. A lot of people are now kind of following the trend of Python. In terms of programming languages, and I think they're very excited about this Python and data science stuff. But and there's been a lot less Java influence over the years, but Java will always be around and will forever be around and will always be a programming language that will hold a large number of dominance just because of the main factor that it's on so many devices. So I really went in, and in my first year I kind of picked up that I don't want to look through a code base and not understand something. And a lot of the time I would find myself having to investigate an issue, and sometimes it was just like, whoa, like what does this do? What does that do? What does this do? And it's the first time you see a piece of code like that. So I actually said, you know what, I want to know this since I'm a fan of it, and since I'm really interested in it. I want to know Java to the maximum possible capability that I can. And going on that journey of being or a Java professional, um, it was very daunting. It was probably, I think, one of the toughest journeys and examinations that I've actually had to write, because it really goes in depth and really tests your knowledge on Java. And yeah, basically after I did pass that and I managed to get through it, I felt more confident at work. I felt more confident when developing my own projects, and kind of like dealing with any issues, and also trying to influence as much, and also mentoring and trying to be involved with other people and showing them how Java works there. For me, it was just a personal growth journey that I wanted to go on, and pretty much that's why I kind of went through the certification and being a Java professional. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. Like all the languages, Python and all are good for some use case, but the core
Mm.
real computing will continue in Java. Nobody is
Yeah,
going to
true.
displace that.
Yeah.
So, like currently you're working on the and some mobile app you said. So, what are the kind of challenges you see while developing the mobile app for a bank?
So the kind of challenges that you face, like I mentioned previously, sometimes you deal with, like the social issues and politics. Sometimes you have conflict resolution that you have to deal with. So you have to go back and forth with people, and just trying to resolve certain issues. Sometimes there might be deadlock between the social element as well. But also the above the, I mean, below the social issues is the technical issues as well. Sometimes you have to go in and really look through a really large code base to try to find very nitty-gritty issues that may be very difficult to find. And even with experience and with very technical know-how, sometimes you have to call in and hit and do peer programming sessions just to kind of get down to the bottom of issues that are very difficult and technically hard to solve. So I think it's a balance of the social and technical, um, what you call, issues that kind of make it a little bit difficult, and the challenges more tedious. But I think with time and over time, you start to become more familiar, and you begin to, I think, find your way, and you're able to navigate with the more experience you have. So yeah, that's pretty much the main challenges that you kind of face in that type of environment. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so the app must be on Android as well as iPhone. So If the iPhone must be on Swift or something, or you have Java converted there.
I'm sorry, are you saying that as the app on iOS and
Yeah,
Android as well?
yeah.
Yes. Yes. So the app is on iOS and Android. Yes, and it's also on like Mobi. So
Okay,
Mobi would be essentially web website. So it's a responsive website as well.
okay,
And yeah, the application is backend driven. So on the back end, we kind of send the views to the front end. Then the relevant front end teams handle that. So as I
okay,
mentioned, I am back end. So yeah, the back end kind of pauses whatever code you write, pauses it into like a XML that we can actually send through. And then once we send through the XML to the front end, they then handle how the view will look from there. Yeah.
okay.
Mm.
Great. So like how, we'll change the topic now. How would you see yourself 5 years down the line? Are you planning to continue the job, or you have some product in mind, some startup? What are
Yeah,
your
yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah. So yeah, like I'm somebody who always likes to learn more and I think better myself, as time goes. So I think 5 years from now, I'd like to see myself very full stack. I don't want to just limit myself to Java or the cloud, AWS. I want to be very good in databases as well. A lot of
Okay.
people, they know SQL, but it's not SQL. Like the
Hmm.
very advanced underlying stuff. Yeah, so I want to become SQL certified as well, and NoSQL certified. I think there's about seven. There's about seven that I want to get. So there's about three more. I think four more that I have to get now. Three more that I have to get now. And then yeah, I think I'll be done with the certifications, professional certifications, and then just try to build stuff from there. Even hardware. Try to limit. I don't want to really limit myself going to Raspberry Pis. I just got a Raspberry Pi now.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, I can actually show you. It
Yeah.
just came in. Yeah.
Hey, that's
So
nice.
yeah, so I don't know. Like I haven't really gone into it yet. It's still like it's still a new thing for me. I still need to learn a lot about hardware and stuff. So I think 5 years from now, I'd see myself probably being a solutions architect or a cloud architect somewhere. Um, Whether it's the bank or in a different company, but where I feel like I can really contribute to the maximum of my capability. I would like to be in that role where I contribute to like drawing up solutions, drawing up architecture to the best of my capability, and yeah, that's kind of where I see myself 5 years from now. Yeah.
Great. Uh, I'll go back to your college days. Like, I'm sure there are some things you did in your college which you feel today like, yeah, I could have done this, and then my life would have been better. Like, and also on the other side, you must be feeling that, yeah, this is what I did in college, and now my life is much better.
Yeah. So yeah, college. I think I think my life would have been a lot more better if I was a bit more serious. Sometimes you have a bit too much fun in college, and especially the beginning, the first few years, you're having fun. You out in the world, and you're kind of like, wow. So you get things done, and it's just it's like when you look back, you're like, I could have done a little more there. I could have done a little more there. And because I think you've got some time here and there as well. I feel like I should have maybe developed a lot more side applications and projects and stuff like that. Instead of just doing my assignments and finishing them and passing while there, I should have went out and really just developed other projects, got hands on, really went in and even get certified, because I believe that, certifications aren't limited to only working professionals. You can do it while you're studying, during school holidays, especially, you get sometimes, you get 1 month holiday, and, sometimes you just really don't utilize it as much as possible. So for me, I think that's something that I could have honestly done better, that I think would have made my life a lot better now. And I would have been a lot more proficient. But yeah, that's something that I would have perhaps looked back on and said, a lot of side projects and stuff would have been something I would have done back in my varsity days. Yeah.
Okay. And the other way, like something you did and you feel proud today, yeah, that's helping me.
Something what?
Something that you did while you were in college and now you realize that that was a very good thing you did and that is what is helping you today.
Mm. I think one of the things that I did in college, that does kind of help me today, is just to kind of, um, be able to separate, fun and having fun in college, and being able to balance that with having your work done, and really, being productive in that element. I think that teaches a lot of discipline, because I mean, if you have the discipline to kind of balance, the life and the fun life, sometimes, when you're young, you've got to also just have fun, and balance that. Don't be too hard on yourself, but then also have the discipline to go back. I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate that I did, because if I didn't have that discipline to go and study and really focus on my work, and focus on, improving myself and getting good marks, that discipline kind of maybe starts to run into your career, and into your personal life. And, sometimes you end up doing things that you don't really have to do, and I think, for example, certifications, you don't have to do certifications, but, that's something, if you really have discipline, you can instill that. So I do feel like that's how the discipline that I learned back in varsity, and the discipline that I taught myself back in varsity, is something that's really contributing me now. Yeah.
Interesting. Final question, like how would you advise some fresh graduate who is just entering an industry? What should they do to make their life simpler?
Pardon, did you say some upcoming developers?
Yeah, somebody who's just passed out of college and is about to enter the industry. That person asks you for advice. How would you advise? What should that person do to speed up or do some make his life simpler in the industry?
Mm. Yeah, so I think to make life simpler in industry, I think one of the biggest things to do is really just go in and learn as much as possible, build things that are on your mind, something that you're thinking about that you think would be really cool. Don't limit yourself and say, ah, too hard, or too difficult. Just spend that extra time you have to improve yourself, to reach a level that, you think isn't reachable, because I think one of the biggest things I learned when I became, well, I jumped into the workforce, is that you see that things are so much more possible than you actually thought they were. You think, back then, I'd say, a project would take 1 year to make, and then all of a sudden you get into industry and you find people doing it in 2 weeks, and you're like, whoa, what? And you're like, whoa, that's possible. I never knew that's possible, So I think just don't limit yourself. Go do projects. Give yourself unrealistic timelines to do those projects, even if it's 2 weeks and you think it's going to take you 2 months. Do it in 2 weeks. Try sit there and try figuring out. You might not finish it in 2 weeks. It might be broken in 2 weeks, and it might not be working in 2 weeks. But at least you failed forward. The things that you learned, and the things that you kind of like improved in while doing that, is going to take you so far ahead, compared to, just sitting there and saying that's too hard. So I think go out, fail more, and eventually, I think you will succeed. Yeah.
That's great. That was nice. So you've given some very good pointers. Like most important, you said should just keep trying something, keep implementing something, then you'll learn out of it.
Mm,
That's nice.
definitely.
You have a good range of interest. You also interested in the Raspberry Pi. Like I've seen it after a long time, so it's just kind of nostalgic. I had one. I didn't wait. I tried something and it just blew up. So that was not
I
good.
hope mine doesn't blow up anytime soon.
It's nice. Yeah, I've been following
Yeah,
different passions. That's really nice. And one more thing you
yeah,
said is like the kind of code base that you see in the industry. You gave a very good example. Like when you saw the code base, it was so huge, it was daunting, but you took the time and the effort and you could master it in 8 months. So that says a lot. Like it's going to
mm,
take time to master, but you can do it.
yeah, yeah,
That's really
definitely,
nice.
definitely. Yeah.
Thanks, thanks a lot for your insights. I'm sure our audience will benefit from this.
Mm.
Great.
Oh, I know it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Vikas, anytime, and I really do wish you all the best as well, with your journey to kind of influence people, to kind of get an understanding. I think anyone watching these videos will take a lot from it, especially if you're coming into the industry. So yeah, awesome stuff, man.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for your time.